right. Looks like Twitter's giving us some issues. It's not letting us go live there, saying that we have to be a premium member subscriber, and we are. But you know what? Right now, I'm so over Twitter as it is to begin with. So screw those guys. We're just gonna remove that one real quick. And we are live though for Toilets and Titles. My name is Justin Stevens. We're back for episode 261, and because of that hiccup with the slow start there, I guess we're gonna have us a nice little soft intro. So, Mark, my man, tell the people where they can find you, and I know it's been a depressing few days, but tell us how you've how well have you been in your recovery?
Yeah, not I just told you off air. This is giving me PTSD. I finally got over the game, and now I got to relive the whole thing over and over again. But yeah, that was tough. It was very tough game where I feel like outside of a few mistakes, we probably played the better overall game and outplayed Philly for the most part.
For
But
sure.
Few mistakes here and there ended up costing us the game. We can get into that later, but yeah, it was rough.
Well, you can find him at MT Simon over on the artist formerly known as Twitter. And you can find me on Blue Sky at Toilets and Titles. That's the account that I check on a more regular basis. So we have a lot planned for you guys today. We are going to be first we have a guest that's going to be coming in, hopefully, if he can get his computer working. That's the champion of the Frankenstank Listener League, the team owner of the team Predator. He and his son had a team together, and they they rocked it. They rocked it all the way through. We've got some news for you, some NFL news. We're going to be talking NFC and AFC conference championship matchups, along with some prop bets for you that Mark and I like, that we think that you guys should probably lay bets down on, and we've got our reasons why for that. But yeah, so we got a lot to get to. But first off, Mark, guess the theme.
With a million podcasts out there, we're grateful you chose Toilets to Titles. We give fantasy football advice to get your crop team to the finals. From Meets cousin Eddie Persona and his unapologetic love for Chubb, and Justin's hatred for Chris Ballard, our show is as good as a belly rub. Mark is the best of the NFC West, putting down Penguin Pete with his love for the Rams. Grab a whiskey or a beer, we're glad you're here. Welcome to
I don't know. I mean, it like regular pop, I guess, like a little
yeah. You'll feel better when I tell you that there's no way you could have guessed it, because it's nothing like what the theme was supposed to be.
Okay, what was it?
It's Christmas music.
Yeah, no.
All right, guys, episode 261. We're also going to be doing the random wheel spinner for our Super Bowl squares. I forgot to mention that, and actually probably going to start off with that because you can see how bad my computer screen is freezing up. That happens whenever I have way too many tabs pulled up and I've got too many things going on in the green room. So we got a couple comments in there. We got Jerry Bagshaw, who's watching for those Super Bowl squares, along with Duarte, Oscar, man. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and buying some squares, and good luck to you. I'm going to show my screen here. My screen has the can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay. So my screen has the squares here. Mark's screen has the random wheel spinner. So as he's spinning the wheel, and Mark and I, neither one have squares in this one. So this isn't rigged. We didn't record this several times and then post it live when we got the right one that we wanted. But we're going to go across the top first for the AFC side. And the way this works, let's say that whenever we do the random wheel, Ed gets 1 and 1 and 2 here. And then Ed also gets 3 and 6 here. The way that'll work is at the end of each quarter, Ed will have any combination of the last number in the score. So if the AFC is 11, they have 11 points, then then that falls under 1 because or not 11. That 11 was a bad example. 21. Let's say 21 because only one of those numbers are 1. So the last number is 1. So we go under the ones column. This works just like any other regular squares. It's just that Ed also has 2, right? So he can pair either of those up with 3 or 6 from the NFC side. So he gets both numbers that we have right there. So just to let you guys know that that's how this one works, because I do know it looks a little bit different. Mark was complaining about it before we went live with it. So I felt like maybe I should share that with everyone. We are going to go across the top first here with the AFC side. So here's our random wheel spinner. We're going to do Ed Peters for the AFC, his first 2 numbers first.
All right. So I'm going to shuffle 3 times here, and then we're going to give it a spin. 1, 2, 3. First number for the AFC. Zero.
All right. And then Ed Peters' second number for the AFC. So he got a good one there, first quarter. Sometimes goes scoreless.
The boss told me I have to shuffle every spin, so we're going to do this 3 more times.
I said I like to.
3. Here's the spin. AFC number 2. Ooh, that's a good one. 7.
You got 0 and so 10 to. Oh wait, no, those are both AFC. So 10 or 7 would work for you. 0 works. I like it. All right. Now we're going to keep going across the AFC. We've got Lacey Hammonds. That's my cousin. We're going again AFC for her 2.
All right. 3 shuffles. 1, 2, 3. Here's your spin. The 5.
All right. Lacey gets a 5. We've got some more comments while you're spinning here. That's my sister Amanda. She pretty much filled this board for me. I told her we we're doing Super Bowl squares, and she started making phone calls. And the next thing you know, she's sending me numbers numbers and money right and left. So
Nice.
yeah, more ways to win.
1.
That's a good
2,
one for Ed. Amanda needs to be placing some of these bets that we're going to be doing at Vegas this weekend when she goes.
6.
Okay, so Lacey has 5 and 6 for the AFC.
1, 2,
All right.
3.
Next is Amanda with her square number 3 she bought. So these are her 2 AFC.
1 ain't bad. 1 ain't bad.
Nope, 21.
All right.
All right. 21, 31 as the game goes. Both of those could work.
2.
All right. Amanda's AFC numbers are 1 and 2. Oscar is up next.
2, 3.
Just Oscar gets 9. Is that 9 or 6?
9.
9. All right. Just to show the other board here real quick. Oscar's 9. We do have our guests in the green room. James, I see you there. We're going to finish up these random wheel spins, and we'll get you on real quick. I appreciate your patience. I was getting a little glitchy with everything pulled up in the green room, so this will help clear some screens. But all right, so Duarte's got 9. Let's go ahead and see. Oh, and this isn't just Duarte, by the way. I know I was reading off the top, but obviously 07 goes for Ed, Brittany, Steve, Jerry, Allison. So this is for all of you guys. My bad. I don't know why I was reading it off that way. But so the next number here. Oh, we already did 1. What was after 9?
3.
9. Okay, so we had 3 across there for Oscar. And then that was what?
8.
I guess not that it matters too much on these, but we got 8 and 4. All right, so now we're going to do the NFC next. Right down the column here. Actually, let's see if I can.
1, 2, 3. I'm just gonna kind of go fast with these. I'll call them out as they spin.
No problem.
We have 6.
All right.
Zero.
6 and 0. So Ed has 0 for NFC and AFC. He's open for a scoreless first quarter, scoreless half.
4. Mm. 5.
All right, you keep spinning. I'm going to update the people.
7.
Oh, Steve will be happy about that one. Steve, Pat, Mikey. Steve's got 7 and 7.
8. Number 1. Nine or 3. Number 9. Last 2 being 2 and 3, right? They're the same spot. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter which one. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Guess I can take that off.
Hey, I guess it right. All right. Let's see. So here is the final board, just for those of you that want to take a screenshot of it. I will also be sharing it in our Discord. Amanda, I will be texting it to you later so you can share it out to the masses. But ultimately, that is our board. We appreciate you all helping out. Toilets and Titles. Part of that money is going to go towards a Patreon giveaway that I'm trying to plan for here in the next month or two, maybe somewhere around the draft time, maybe a little before the draft. I've got an idea for a Patreon giveaway. So that money is going to go towards that. Greatly appreciate your support, your constant support. That's patreon.com/toilets and titles. Good luck to our Super Bowl square people. And I might be filling another one. I don't know yet. Mark might be able to talk me into it. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But all right. Let's see. We have our guest. We've got our guest, James. Now, am I pronouncing this correctly? That's the first question. Is Atulak?
Sure. Battle log, however. So it just stands for where I'm from. Broken Arrow, Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh, okay. All right. I got to be honest with you. Are there a lot of people in that area that call it that?
No. So
because I
original...
Googled it.
Oh, you Googled it.
I was trying to do research on the word.
Yeah. No. So originally I had this one called Tulak, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then my kids took that, as they got older for their PlayStation, and then I had Bamanock, which is Broken Arrow, Minnesota, Oklahoma, and then my other son took that one, and so then I got Battle or Batulak or whatever you want to say.
I like Battle Lock better, but yeah. So I Googled it, and the only thing I could find was you and all the different places that's your handle. So that kind of threw me off there. All right. Well, while we're here, go ahead and tell the people where they can find you at and explain to them how you came to become a Vikings fan.
Well, I'm originally from Minnesota, so was born and raised there for only about 5-6 years before my family moved down to Broken Arrow, which nobody knows where Broken Arrow is in Oklahoma. So Tulsa is what I always tell people is where I'm from. So where I got
Gotcha.
the battle lock part of it anyway.
Gotcha. Our man Rich he lives in Oklahoma as well. I'm not sure how many episodes you've seen with him, but he likes to talk about that a lot, or at least I do, because I like to make it sound like I actually know very much about Oklahoma. But all right, so obviously the reason we have you on here, James, is to talk about your amazing win with our listener league. You also have a nice little awesome story involving your son with this team. So if you would. Just kind of describe a little bit about how the season went down for you, and if you had any major strategies, how much of it was you, how much of it was your son, that sort of thing. Just kind of talk about the Frankenstank Listener League.
Yeah, so I invited my youngest son to help out. He likes to play D&D, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon and stuff. So I wanted to get his advice and help in looking at the Frank cards and determine which ones we wanted to use. So what we did, it actually worked out pretty well. So we took turns in the draft every round. Like I would go, then he would go, I would go, he would go. And I'm sure there was players that I took that he didn't want and vice versa, but it actually worked out really well for our team.
Yeah.
So we're pretty impressed with how good of a run we got started with. And towards the end of the season, we lost a couple, which really hurt. The second loss we got, though, we didn't get a player stolen from us. I don't know if he didn't want to steal or what happened, but that kind of helped us out right there. And then in the playoffs, all year we've been taking turns, making decisions and going back and forth. In the playoffs twice, I overruled my son, and it almost cost us the final week and the third round of the playoffs. But Jaden Daniels pulled out one for us, and then the last game against your son, I'm a Vikings fan, so needed Jahmyr Gibbs to have a extraordinary game. Watching with my parents and my two boys, and me and my son were like, "Ooh, there's this Gibbs touchdown. Ooh, there's another Gibbs touchdown." My parents were like, "Really? Are you rooting for him?" I'm like, "I'm not rooting for him, but I mean, we're getting beat." And then towards the end of the game, I'm like, "Okay, let's just get one more touchdown. I mean, we're already going to lose this game to Detroit, so why not just let us get the championship in?" So luckily, we got the victory. Unfortunately, the Vikings lost and then turned around and lost again the next week. But
yeah, so in the final 8, I had the option to choose my opponent, and I had a strategy going into it. I wound up choosing the number 1 seed, the Headless Horseman. My strategy did not go well for me because I would have won had I chosen either you or my son in that round. Or even the other option. I think there was even another option. I don't really remember, but pretty much all the other options I would have won. I would have advanced. So that strategy bit me. So I understand, having a strategy and whatnot. But Mark, do you have anything you want to ask him?
Before I ask him anything, I want to just conveniently point out about how this is his time to shine, and you just took it upon yourself to say if you would have picked him, you would have beat him. Nice play, Justin.
Well, hey, he needs some feedback. There's only 2 of us here that actually made the playoffs, so.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Australia Drop Bears picked right before you, and they chose us. So
gotcha,
you didn't even have an opportunity to choose us.
No.
Gotcha. Okay.
The first thing I want to say is I'm glad that the Predator got a good home and was able to win a championship, because last year I was the Wolf Predator and I flamed out of the playoffs about, I think, the second round, I think it was last year. So I'm of the belief if you don't win with the guy, you gotta cut bait and go with another monster. So I'm glad that the Predator found a good home and got a championship. Did you say what your monster card was this year?
I did not. It was, now I can't think of it. The one where you choose the top is then the top 10 of
Freddie
players.
Krueger.
Freddie Krueger, and we had Atlanta's backup running back.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was my son chose both of that.
Yeah. That was a good play.
Nice.
I like that. I've always thought Freddie is one of the most powerful monster cards out there. I think it's going to change a little bit with all the new cards we're adding this year, but Freddie was definitely a good choice.
Yeah.
Are you a horror fan? What drew you to the Frankenstein League?
So I was in another league, and someone was mentioning Frankenstein, and so then I looked it up, and then I'm like, oh, this sounds pretty interesting. So I like to, I'm in all kinds of leagues. So I'm in IDP, I'm in leagues with kickers, I'm in leagues with team defenses. So I just thought this looked really interesting and cool. So that's why. And then I asked my son, and he's like, oh, for sure, let's do it.
Different from any other league you played in?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, nothing like it at all. Completely different. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, so very specifically though, the Predator. I can't remember, was that your idea to name the team the Predator, or was that one on your son?
That was me. Yeah, he was I was asking him, and I don't know what he was doing that day, but he was taking forever, so I just took it upon myself and named it.
It's a solid name. That's definitely one that needs to stay in the Frank. And I believe also, I've created a Predator card now. So that's one of the new cards. So I wouldn't be able to tell you what it is right now without pulling up the doc. But as a matter of fact, since you're here, I might just go ahead and do that. But have you put any thought into your new division? Because the champion gets to choose the name of a division the next season. The division name has to be, toilet or bathroom humor themed, along with monster themed. So have you put any thought into that at all yet?
A little bit. I was going to let my son see if he could come up with the name first before I put my 2 cents to it.
Oh, we got plenty of time on that one. So
I'll get him working on it.
What about your charity? Did that one hit home for any particular reason? Tell the people what you chose, and maybe talk a little bit about the charity. Maybe we can get more people to help donate.
So we chose a mental health charity, and lately, just like one of those things, you hear something say about a car or something, you see like 50 cars. Well, a couple years ago, with my wife's family, there was some people with mental health, and then it just seems like there's a lot of people that we know that are just struggling, and so that's why we chose that.
Very nice.
Gotcha. And that charity is NAMI, by the way, NAMI. Yes. It's the National Alliance on Mental Illness. For those of you that are in the giving spirit right now, but see. I cannot find the doc with the new Frank cards to find the what do you call it? The Predator card. So you'll have to bear with me unless Mark, you have another question for him.
My couple of questions I just wanted to ask as a Vikings fan. So we just saw recently Kevin O'Connell got a contract extension. You're pretty happy with that?
Oh yes.
Yeah. Great coach. Coming from
Sean McVay's tree.
Yeah,
I see you with your Rams gear on.
Yep, absolutely. Tough weekend for me.
Because you win that one, and you got to think you're the favorite to go to the bowl.
Yeah. The other question, I'm curious from a Vikings standpoint, is your feelings on Sam Darnold, because we talked about this a couple weeks ago, that it's so crazy that early it was like Sam Darnold's in the MVP conversation, and then now it's like we want him out of here. We need JJ right away. So what's the thoughts as a Vikings fan? Do you want Darnold around? Are you ready for JJ? Do you want something else? Where you see your quarterback position going next year?
Don't know what JJ is going to be. Hopefully he's going to be the next guy. I'm okay with keeping Sam as long as we don't spend an arm and a leg to keep him for a long-term contract. If we're going to bring him back at a reasonable price, yeah, that'd be great. But if not, if he's one in the bag, I don't want another cousin situation. It's like we got stuck into.
Yeah.
So, but I'm hoping. I mean, with the rookie quarterback, you got all the salary. I mean, you can build around them. Is my thought. But
I think the last couple of weeks might have helped that cause where he's not going to get that huge bag that was expected. So maybe you could keep him around. And because you never I'm a Michigan fan as well. So I love JJ McCarthy. I think he's very underrated for what people think he's going to be in the NFL, just because Michigan didn't need to throw the ball. He can make all the throws. We just didn't need to throw the ball. So he didn't really get to showcase all the talent that he has. But at the same time, like coming off of a major injury like he is this year, you just never know how quick he's going to bounce back. So having somebody like Darnold, if you're not paying a huge bag, I think is pretty beneficial.
Yeah, for sure. Or Daniel Jones. Yeah. Maybe bring Kirk Cousins back on a small contract.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely some options out there. Russ, where's Russ going to go? Is Pittsburgh going to keep him?
Yeah. I don't think
I just want to see it go full circle and get Aaron Rodgers in there just to fully fill that Favre circle. I did find I found the monster card, Doc. The Predator card is actually called the Human Predator. So I don't know if this is a compliment, paying good homage to the Predator or not, because I've combined it with Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson. But between the Predator's insanely good regenerative powers and his extra time on the massage table, the Human Predator has an uncanny knack for coming back early from injuries. And then, of course, after I made this, he goes back down with another Achilles issue. But anyway, when you play this card, you are allowing a player that is listed as out to start in your starting lineup, and that player will get awarded with 150% of their season-long points per game average at that point. They do have to have at least 3 games logged, but whatever let's say you had Rashee Rice, when he went down, if he was averaging 20 points a game, you're going to get 150% of that, so you're going to get 30 points if you start him in your lineup, even though he's listed as out. You only get to play the card once all season, but when you play it, you get to play it for 2 consecutive weeks if you want. So that is the Human Predator card, the regenerative power.
Very nice.
Yeah, definitely not anywhere near as powerful as Freddy Krueger that you can use every week. But we're going to have over 50 cards, and you're going to have 3 monsters on your roster to start the season next year. So there's going to be a lot of those subpar cards that you're just going to randomly drop here and there throughout the season. You're going to have to face against more cards and strategize with the cards that you have a little bit more. So all fun stuff for sure.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. Well, hey, we definitely want to thank you for joining and being a part of this monster that we call Frankenstein. We appreciate your donation to NAMI, and we want to hats off to you and your son. Tell your son we said thanks for playing along and joining as well. And we hope to see you guys back next season to defend your title and also have that. I'll even make sure that I put you in the division that you create as well. So thank you very much. Hats off to you. Now, for the rest of the show here, we're going to be talking the conference championship matchup, some Super Bowl prop bets, and that sort of stuff. You are welcome to stick around if you want, but I know time is precious, and I know I had told you I was just going to have you come on for the Frank stuff, so it's up to you. It's optional. I just hate to kick a guy out if you wanted to stick around. So.
No, I understand. I appreciate it. Thanks for you guys having me. The wife is expecting me back in the other room soon, so I better head out.
I appreciate you very much.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. We'll definitely be back next year to try to repeat as the first time ever two-time champ.
Nice.
First time ever. If you want to drop a Twitter handle or something like that for people to follow you, you're welcome to on your way out.
Oh, I don't know if anybody would want to follow me. I have like 2 people to follow me. My 2 boys, maybe my daughter too. So I mean, I don't really ever post anything.
I mean, you're the champ of Frankenstein. People are going to want
Right
to.
now, I'm going to have to start posting. Right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's but Battle Lock is what it is on all of them. So.
Yeah, you've got an awesome handle, so you got to throw that out there. So, all right, man, we appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right, yeah. So thanks again, James, on his way out. That was fun. It's always awesome to have the champs come on and talk some Frank. So we appreciate your time, your viewers that are watching that don't know anything about the Frank and Stank that might be wondering what we're talking about. So thanks for sticking it out. You can reach out to me on Blue Sky at Toilets and Titles if you would like some detailed information about it, or you can DM my man Mark here at MT Simon. He can help you out as well. Rich, good sport right there. I believe Rich also made the playoffs. I know his son at least did, and I think they were really close in the seeding, if memory serves. Kind of like me and my son, we were 1 seed next to each other. So,
I forgot to ask him, but I think I got my answer. It sounded like he didn't pick his second loss up till late, right? So he didn't go the hero route.
Correct. Yeah, he did not have a hero. No, when we got down to the end, Peyton was the only one that had a hero, and Peyton also did make the Super Bowl. So that's who faced my son Peyton faced Predator in the championship. So the idea behind the hero, for those of you that are interested in the numbers, I worked that angle myself this year. I lost the first 2 games on purpose just to get a hero to see how it would work out. Approximately about 25 to 28% of the league actually got a hero. It was about that percentage of the league that made the playoffs, and there was only one in the final 4 that had a hero, which is 25%. So it stayed right there at about that 1 out of every 5 or so teams that continued to have success with the hero. So I'm not sure that the hero helps or hurts. It just depends on your strategy with it. So there's that. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about some actual NFL football. We had a couple of games, a few games this past week. I was 0 for 4 on teams that I wanted to win. I was not 0 for 4 on teams that I thought would win. Definitely 0 for 4 on the ones that I wanted to win. The final 4 teams are none of the teams that I wanted to see in the final 4. So I guess moving forward, I'm a Bills fan for what that's worth. But yeah, so the Bills pick up a big key victory. You know what? Let's go ahead and let you talk about the Rams game real quick. Just get it out and let's move on.
Yeah. So I think I went 2 for 2. Yeah, I went 2-2, and the only one I really wanted to win lost, and that was the Rams. Like I mentioned earlier, I feel like from an overall game standpoint, we probably played better than Philly. We had 3 crucial mistakes, in my opinion. The Kyron Williams fumble, the Stafford fumble, and then Stafford, the missed block by our rookie lineman on 3rd down at the end of the game, which got Stafford sacked for a 8-9 yard loss and made it 4th and 16 to end the game. So I think those 3 were the big difference makers in the game. And in a snowy game like that, every possession matters. You just can't have 2 turnovers like that. You can't have a sack in a crucial standpoint. And then, Saquon was just Saquon, just balled the hell out. And the most frustrating point for me was losing the way we did at the end of the game. Like when Saquon busted that 70-yard touchdown run, I was like, game's over. Game's over. My buddy's an Eagles fan. I texted him. I said, good game. That sucked. And then the defense showed up again. And here we got the ball back with 2 minutes left, going down to drive. A touchdown wins the game. So just like that, we were back in the game. we drove all the way down there, and then another crucial mistake right at the end of the game. But I feel like other than those, I feel like I'm excited for where our defense is going to be next year. Offense is going to be a big question mark. Stafford, I still think Stafford's an elite quarterback, so I think he's still going to be around. The question is Cooper still going to be there? I don't know. He said he wants to be there, but there were the trade rumors at the end, in the middle and end of the season, so you never know where that's going to go out. But man, I was telling you the whole year, I felt like our offense could compete with anybody, and the way that defense was shaping up, I really think, like, I don't think I was being a homer when I said I thought we had a legit shot to win it all this year. And I think we showed that, and just a couple plays short. That's all it was.
Yep. Absolutely. And I was right there with you, man. I had them in the Final Four. I had them in the NFC conference game initially. Let's see. I had them losing to the Lions, but yeah. So I was right there with you. I agree with you totally. You weren't just being a homer, and so the only thing that concerns me about Stafford is the age cliff. Like, we do know that even though, like, we've seen it in the past where a quarterback still had an incredible season, and then the very next season it's like they just drop, and you never know when that cliff is going to hit. But I have no reason to believe it's going to be next year. I hope it's not next year. And not just for your sake, for the NFC's sake. Like, there's not a lot of great quarterbacks in the NFC. Obviously, Jaden Daniels is kind of taking the reins on that. I mean, the NFC is so bad right now with quarterbacks that Jared Goff looks like a king sometimes. Obviously, not when he has 4 touchdowns. 4 interceptions against the Commanders. But that Washington Commanders and Lions game was probably the only one that I couldn't say was super entertaining, at least. So we were highly entertained by the NFL this week with some exciting games between the other 3. But speaking of the Commanders and the Lions, obviously a lot of people were pulling for the Lions in this one, but now the Commanders kind of take over that lovable loser or Cinderella comeback story, whatever you want to call it. It's been so long since the Commanders have been relevant. Here they are in the NFC Championship game. I will say that way back at the beginning of the season, when we did our predictions to start the season, I'm pretty sure I had the Commanders at least in the divisional round, because I had them getting second place in the division and hitting that divisional round. I could kind of see this coming, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't so much because of that offense and Jaden Daniels. It was more so that defense that I thought was going to step up. I thought they'd play a lot better this year, but they have played a lot better in the playoffs. That defense has really stepped up. I am not personally too impressed with the 2 wins from the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, they're winning, they're finding ways to win, they're doing what it takes, but outside of Saquon Barkley, they're winning ugly football. Like, they beat a couple of decently talented teams. They've beaten the Packers. They obviously, we know that the Rams are a talented team, but I think without the weather there in Philly for that one, it's a totally different ball game, because I'm just not super impressed with Jalen Hurts. I've never really been super impressed with Jalen Hurts. He has huge games when they play weak opponents. He has big games. He's good for fantasy. I think he is my version of your Lamar, personally. I'm not super impressed with Jalen Hurts, but Washington definitely is a much better or a much easier opponent than I anticipated them having in the NFC Championship game. But I'm going to throw it out there, since I'm rooting for the Commanders anyway. I'm going to call the upset. The Commanders are going to make it to the Super Bowl. What do you think?
Hand up, though. I gave Washington 0 chance against Detroit. I thought they could stay within 9.5, which was the spread, but no realistic chance in winning that game. And wow, it couldn't even be further from the truth. It was complete. Detroit had no chance of winning that game. But
everybody except for Jaden Daniels' mother was right there with you.
Yeah. I just hope either the Commanders or the Bills pull it off, because I don't know what I'm going to do with the Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl again.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to root for the Chiefs, to be honest, and I don't want to root for the Chiefs winning 3 straight Super Bowls,
Yeah.
but I don't like Philly.
If it's the Chiefs and the Eagles again, I'm definitely doing another Super Bowl squares because I got to have something to root for.
Right.
All right. Well, speaking of the AFC, so we have the Chiefs pulled it off over Houston. Houston made that a closer game than I thought it was going to be. It looked like it's going to be a little bit interesting there for a little while, but the Chiefs are a playoff team, and they've they set their team up to win in the playoffs. Against good teams throughout the year, they've typically won by single digits. They've won by less than a score a ton of times, but they still only have like 2 losses, 3 losses. They were the number 1 seed. They're obviously an incredibly good team, and they also have the 5 extra guys on the field with striped shirts that are helping them out on a very regular basis. I don't care what that ref says that came out and said that's ridiculous to think. But I mean, just seriously, watch football and you'll see it. It's ridiculous. Pat Mahomes gets treated with baby gloves.
So many bad calls in that game. Do I think it would have changed the game and the Texans would have won? No. But the amount of personal foul calls that Mahomes gets against him are absolutely insane. Both of those were brutal. Not even close to a personal foul. The first one where he didn't even make contact to the head and they threw the flag. And then the second one where he dances around for 15 minutes and then just drops down and he gets hit in the chest because they said he was sliding. No, it was garbage. So bad. But I mean, that's
why he flops. He knows he's going to get the calls. It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's really bad for the NFL.
How many quarterbacks did we see get hit on the sideline this past weekend and say, "Oh, if that was Mahomes, that would have been a 15-yard pass." And you 100% know it would have been, but nobody else got their call.
Yep. And then we have the Bills and the Ravens. The Bills, again, another incredible team, another team that's going to be hard to beat. I honestly think they're playing much better football right now than the Chiefs. I don't care what you say. I feel vindicated that Lamar proved that he is still he is now a good playoff player. Now, here's the reason why I say that. All right. When you watch
an hour if you want to.
No, if you have NFL Game Pass, I invite you to go back and watch those seasons that he lost in the playoffs and he looked bad in the playoffs. Also watch him against the top-seeded teams that were in the playoffs that year when they played in the regular season. He did the same stuff. He choked. He was bad, made poor decisions, inaccurate throws, blah, 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 whatever. These last 2 losses that the Ravens have had in the playoffs, for one, have not been on him, but also – if you look at the regular season games against the more dominant, powerful teams, he beat them or also had really good games against them in the regular season as well. He's done choking. He's developed. He's incredible. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So he just happened to get beat because Mark Andrews decided not to show up for this football game for some reason.
There's regular season Lamar and there's playoff Lamar. They are 2 different quarterbacks. Regular season Lamar, he's one of the greatest quarterbacks in the league, best fantasy player in the league. He'll get you wins all year long. When the playoffs come around, he's playoff Lamar. And I'm not on an island here. We talked about this. Playoff Lamar was trending by 36,000 people on Twitter during that game. There's a reason. That interception, whatever you want to tell me, I don't care. That was a brutal pass. That was an awful pass right to the defender. The fumble, you can scramble. You can blame the offensive line. Just like I said, Stafford and Kyron can't fumble that ball. He fumbled that ball because he was trying to get creative, and he threw the ball on the ground. It wasn't even a fumble. He just dropped the ball on the ground, which the guy picked up and ran down to the 15-yard line, which directly resulted in a touchdown. The Mark Andrews drop means nothing because that touchdown wins the game if he doesn't have that fumble. He is now in the playoffs, 11 turnovers to 10 touchdowns. That's not an all-star quarterback. That's not a great playoff quarterback. That is playoff Lamar losing games. With him and Derrick Henry on that team, there is zero reason. They had zero excuses this year. No excuses.
Look for Lamar's stats in just his last 4 playoff games, though. Just the last 4. He has a lot more touchdowns than he does interceptions or turnovers.
Choose.
Yeah, you do, because that's my argument. My argument is that I agree with you that he used to be 2 different players. Now he's no longer 2 different players. And yes, that Mark Andrews drop does matter because the Mark Andrews fumble on the drive before should have made it so that Mark Andrews catch didn't matter at all as well. He made 2 mistakes. 2 mistakes that I can easily argue weren't completely his fault, even though he's owning it and he's taking it. He made 2 mistakes. All of the other winning quarterbacks made 2 or more mistakes this weekend. 2 or more big mistakes, and they still happen to win. And there have been 10 games in the playoffs this year. 10 games, that means there's 20 quarterbacks. Of the 20 quarterback ratings that have been locked in the top 5, 2 of them are Lamar. I mean, he plays incredible football, even in the playoffs.
How many touchdowns did he throw this weekend?
2, I think.
How many turnovers do you have this weekend?
2.
So exactly like I said, he hasn't outproduced his turnovers. For everything that he's done, he's counteracted with a negative play. How many turnovers did Josh Allen have last weekend? 0.
Yeah, that's what I'm. No.
How many turnovers?
Hold on. I'm looking for all this right now.
How many turnovers did Mahomes have last weekend?
I'm looking.
How many turnovers did Jalen Hurts have this
by the way.
weekend? I'll wait. How many turnovers did Jalen Daniels have this weekend? All the quarterbacks who won haven't turned the ball over at all. At all.
This is
0 turnovers.
Are you? You can't. That cannot be right.
Positive. Look it up. Mahomes.
I'm trying. I'm trying to look it up, but let's see. All right, this is obviously not fun for people to watch at this point, waiting on this, but
well, they can take my word for it because I looked them all up.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then I'll take your word for it. I believe you then. But, it still doesn't take away from the fact that Lamar is not the reason why they lost this game.
I disagree, though, because if that fumble doesn't happen, they're never behind and they win that game.
There's so many ifs, like the defense giving up 3 unanswered scores. Like, without that, they don't lose the game. Like, there's so many what ifs. Like, to say that those 2 mistakes are the reason that they lost is just astronomical to me. It's insane.
You can call it insane, but my thing is we've seen it over and over. Like, he just continues to do it. This is his best team he's ever had.
But he didn't.
That, and he still had more he had the same amount of turnovers as he threw for touchdown passes. That's not good. You can't argue that's
he did not have a bad game.
2 turnovers.
And without Zay Flowers and with the horrible offensive line. Like
2 turnovers is not a bad game. What are we doing
here? No,
it's
not. It's not necessarily a bad game. We've seen people with 4 turnovers still win football games.
So are we going to say Jared Goff had a good football game when he had 5 interceptions and won that game?
No, because he also didn't have a good game.
That's what you're arguing.
No, I'm just saying turnovers. I'm just saying turnovers alone doesn't make whether or not somebody has a good football game. And it was also only 2 turnovers.
Does 100% as the quarterback it does. But like I said, we could do this for an hour. We're just going to go around in circles. You think Lamar's great. I think Lamar sucks in the playoffs. We'll leave it at that, and we'll let everybody else have their own opinion.
Yeah, I think he changed a lot of minds. I think everybody watching that game would have pinned that one on Mark Andrews.
The 36 people that were tweeting playoff Lamar, he didn't change their minds. 36,000 people. He didn't change their minds.
You already have it set in your minds. It is what it is. So, conference championship bets. Conference championship. What's that?
I just said ditto.
Let's see. If the refs weren't Chief fans, they would lose in the playoffs every year. Yes, very true. They probably wouldn't even win some of the divisions titles. Goff did not lose the game. Commanders won that. That's a fair point too. But I mean, you can't get around that one. Let's see. All right, conference championship prop bets. I actually ended up putting down more than you because I thought that Nate would put down a couple, and I thought you were going to go back and handle a couple. So I'll call off a couple of mine, and then you can do one of yours, and we'll go back and forth. So. I'm going with Pat Mahomes to have 1 passing touchdown. Only 1 passing touchdown. Now, I don't know how DraftKings works because it says 1+. So I don't know. Or, I mean.
You're betting.
No.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, if he gets 0, do I still win, or does it have to be 1?
No, what you're betting is he has 1 or more touchdown passes.
Oh, okay. So that says
it says negative 11,000. So to
shoot. Okay.
Win $100.
Well, then I take that back.
$1,100 to win 100.
Well, then I take that back. I want to go back to where it says, because when I first logged in and I first looked it up, it said Pat Mahomes to have 2 or more touchdown passes, and I would have picked the lesser of those. I think against that Bills defense. And the fact that I'm not as high on the Chiefs this year, and I'm not as impressed when they play good teams like the Bills, probably the best team still, overall team still in the playoffs right now. I feel like Pat Mahomes is going to have a bad game. I'm calling for him to have 1 or less touchdowns. So whatever that bet is in DraftKings, that's the one that I would bet.
Under 1
and I know that sounds crazy. Under 1.5. What's the bet? What's the line on that? Or the whatever?
Plus 118.
Plus 118. So that sounds, like a
you're
decent
payout. You're getting more than even money. Yeah.
And the reason for that is because he also has more passing attempts than any other quarterback that's still left in the playoffs on average by like at least 8 passing attempts per game. So the odds are more likely that he's going to have at least 2, but I don't see it against this Bills defense. I think that we're finally going to get to see the Chiefs go down. They're not going to get into the Super Bowl for a 3rd straight year. And then I went with Brian Robinson Jr. I actually have him down for 2 bets, but the first one I have is over 35.5 rushing yards. He's only averaging about 45, I think 48 rushing yards per game right now. But I think in this game against the Eagles, they're going to have to get that running game going. I think that they're also probably going to have a little bit of a cushion at certain parts of the game where they're going to want to try to run the clock down. I think against the Eagles, the best bet is to try to keep the game as short as possible, run as much as possible, keep the Eagles offense off the field as much as possible. You do that by running the football. So I think Brian Robinson over 35.5 rushing yards is a deadlock for me personally. I think it's probably the easiest bet that I chose.
Okay. You want me to throw some out there now?
Yeah, either that or you can trash my picks. I don't care.
Yeah. I don't mind the Brian Robinson one. I think Mahomes is going to have 2 or more touchdowns. I think Buffalo's going to be able to score, and I don't see Buffalo just running away with the game. So I feel like they're going to have to throw to keep up, and that probably means like a Travis Kelce touchdown, maybe a Worthy. So that one would scare me. I'd stay away personally. I do like the Brian Robinson one. The only thing that scares me about that is I think Eckler has a big game. I looked at his rushing and receiving, but then when I saw his receiving yards were only at 25.5, I just think that's a lock. So I would rather just go with the receiving yards at 25.5 than going with rushing and receiving, which I think was 49.5. I still like that because I think he might even get that in receiving alone, but they have been using him a little in the rushing game more frequently. So that's why I was originally looking at that. But like I said, Eckler over 25.5 receiving yards, negative 115, pretty close to even money. I just think that's a lock. That's where I'm going.
Yeah, I agree with that. I
go with a couple.
I thought that they were kind of low on both Eckler and Robinson as well. That's why I have another Robinson bet as well. But I think I'd probably even look to making that bet on the Eckler total rushing and receiving as well. So I think we're in agreement there. But I do think Eckler gets more of the receiving for sure over Brian Robinson. So I think that's a safe bet. Xavier Worthy, I think this is another one that's a safe bet too. Even though it's a rushing yards for a wide receiver, it's only 3.5 rushing yards. He usually gets at least 1 or 2 rushes a game pretty frequently. There are occasions where he doesn't get a rushing attempt, and that's why the rushing yards are so low. But if he even gets just 1 rushing attempt, pretty high odds that it's going to be over 3.5 rushing yards if he gets that attempt. So I think in this game against the Bills, if I'm right about the game and the Bills have the game pretty well under control, then the Chiefs are going to have to pull out some of that trickery to try to score any way that they can, and that's where Xavier's going to come in handy. And then Dallas Goedert, I think, was a safe bet at over 3.5 receptions. I think the last couple of games have proven that when Jalen gets to that point where he's flustered, he's in trouble, he just has to get rid of the ball, he's just going to dump off to get to Dallas Goedert. He hasn't even dumped off to Saquon nearly as much as I thought that he would at this point, but Dallas Goedert is still getting his. So I think 3.5 receptions, he might have that by halftime or into the third quarter. So I think it's a pretty safe bet as well.
Yeah. I like both of those bets. And on the Xavier Worthy point, I was looking, they have a bet out there for most rushing yards in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Xavier Worthy is at plus 7,000. He should be high, but plus 7,000 is an insane number to just sprinkle a little bit of money on it and say they have some trick play where he comes out the side and rushes for a 60-yard touchdown. Yeah. In this game, both teams' rushers could have fewer than 60 yards. So
yeah,
I think that's a little sneaky bet. Put like $5-10 on it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Wow, that's insane. Yeah, because they have all those trick plays. Like you can get just an actual 65-yard run from Xavier Worthy. You can get a little trick play in the backfield with him in motion. They've got the hook and ladder play that they like to run, where the guy that catches it, he flips it back. That guy that he's flipping it back to from that point forward, it's rushing yards. So, like, I mean, I know it seems far-fetched to be talking about all these possible trick plays they could play, but that's kind of the point. Like, there's so many possible trick plays out there. Yeah. If he just breaks one of those in that particular game, and the Chiefs, we know, are good at stopping the run, so they could potentially keep Cooks down. Like, there is a potential there for one huge broken Worthy play to win you some big money. I like it.
So the last time they played, the rushing stats for both teams, Josh Allen rushed for 55 yards, Cook rushed for 20, and Kareem Hunt rushed for 60. And that was Pacheco wasn't there too. So, I mean, either of those teams had a good rushing performance. So one big play like that could be the difference in the leading rusher of the game. So I just thought it was interesting. Definitely worth a little sprinkle.
That would be insane, man. I hope you do drop about $5 on that one.
Yeah. Another one I think is a lock is, and it's crazy to me that they're giving plus money for it too. Shakir over 5.5 receptions at plus 126. Both playoff games, he's had 6 receptions. And the key for me is the last time when the Chiefs and Bills played, he had 8. So 5.5, I think, like, he's clearly Josh Allen's biggest target right now. So I think in a game that they're both going to have to score, I see 6 receptions as cake for Shakir.
Yeah, I was going to say, if that's one of the bets where you can move the needle a little bit, you might make that about 7.5, and that might put your bet into the negative payout there to give you more even money. And I think you'll probably still win. Yeah. Let's see. I've got Saquon the longest reception, or his longest reception being over 8.5 yards. So that's just him. So 8.5 yards for Saquon on a reception. So yeah, I like that one. I think, again, if I'm right about Hurts and he's not going to perform well this week because Hurts does what Hurts does, and he's, like I say, your Lamar to me. If I'm right about all that, then we should see some dump off passes go Saquon's way. He has not dumped off to him as much as I thought he would, at least this last game. But throughout the season, there's been times when he's in trouble. He loves that outlet. And with Saquon, you can throw it to him 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and he can get 8.5 yards easily. So on one play. So I like that one. That bet is that payout is minus 130. And then the other Brian Robinson bet I have is the total combined rushing and receiving yards. Again, I still agree with you on Eckler, so this one does scare me a little bit as far as Eckler's usage goes, eating into Brian Robinson. But at over 50 combined yards, I feel like that's a really low number for Brian Robinson, especially for a team that I think may have the lead in that fourth quarter, and they may be trying to run the clock out as much as possible. We might get some garbage time yards to help put them up over that 50-yard mark, and that bet is paying out at minus 105.
Yeah. So the only thing I was thinking on the Robinson, and I was trying to look it up here real quick.
Well, while you're doing that, we got Rich in the house saying Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes. He corrected it to 2+, but 2+ rushing touchdown combined. I would definitely take that. We got a really good shot of seeing Josh Allen alone get 2. So, yeah, if that's a bet out there, I like that one for sure, Rich.
Okay. So what I was going to say about Brian Robinson, if you're confident in him in his rushing game, I'd almost take the 50 yards not combined and do it rushing, because you get plus 200 yard or plus 200 odds.
So, yeah, I don't know because I still think that Eckler is there for a reason too. Maybe so. The odds at negative 115 for his rushing for Brian Robinson was at 35.5. What does it look like at about 41.5?
On FanDuel, at least, they only let you do by like 25, 40, 50, 60. So 40's plus 110. But
okay, yeah, I could do 40. I think I can do 40. Yeah. I think that's the line. I think that's yeah.
I feel like all the receiving yards are going to go to Eckler. I don't typically think you see a lot of receptions out of Brian Robinson, especially the past few games. So if I'm going to take the yardage, I'm going to try to get a little more money and put it on the rushing side. I do like Saquon. Over 8.5 is pretty low for a reception.
Looks like you like another Eagle there too.
I do. This one's just crazy to me because I originally looked at Goddard. I like his receptions like you had, and I liked his yardage. But when I saw A.J. Brown's receiving line at 60.5, I think there's 0% chance that he's not over 60 yards in this game. They've been trying to get him the ball more. It didn't really happen in the Rams game. Washington's secondary, I think Brown is going to be able to eat up. So I think 60 yards is an easy task for him.
They do a lot of those quick slants to him when obviously if they need 1 or 2 yards, they typically do the tush push, which they didn't do as much this past week. But after that, 3, 4, 5 yards, they do those quick slants to AJ Brown, and like he might have 5 receptions for 10 yards, and then the next thing you know, boom, it's a 30-yard deep route. So that's kind of how I feel like they use AJ Brown like most teams use the run game to set up the pass. They try to go through a lot of smaller, short, quick routes with AJ Brown and then use them deep. So yeah, if the weather conditions are good and all that, then I don't see any reason. But weather conditions do kind of scare me a little bit in Philly right now this time of year, as cold as it's been. But I think it's supposed to warm up before the weekend, so it's probably a safe bet, I would imagine. But yeah, so the 2 playoff games. Wait, no, weeks. So they've only had 1 playoff game. So no, they had 2 playoff games. They don't have. Yeah, they do. So the 2 playoff games, he has a total of 24 yards. So that's kind of rough. But again, weather and other situations. Before that, only 1, 2, 3 games all year where he didn't reach that mark. Like, I mean, that's going to bounce back. So he's got to be more of that offense for them to be able to have a shot in winning this game. And against that secondary, I think I can agree with that bet.
So in the Rams game, yeah, he had 2 catches for 14 yards. He had 7 targets, and some of them were some pretty big plays. One he should have caught, and it should have been a touchdown, and it just happened to bounce out. I think, like you said, the weather definitely played a part. 2 games against Washington this year, he had 97 yards and 65, both over that 60 threshold. So, yeah, outside of another snow quail, I think he gets that yardage pretty easily.
The next one I've got defenses showing up. I've got any team to score 30 plus in that Bills Chiefs game. I'm going to go with no. The payout on that is at minus 120. So I'm going with no on that. I think that the defenses step up in this one, and I think it's going to be a relatively lower scoring game. I did not look at what the over-under on the overall points scored is for that game, but I'm going to go with a lower scoring game on that one. And then I went any team score 30 plus. I went with yes for that Eagles and Commanders game. I think with that one, we're going to see the teams air it out. We've got a younger team with the Commanders with a younger quarterback. He's going to want to air it out. He's got the legs to move the ball. They've got a good offense with Philadelphia as well. And both teams have some holes in their secondary right now. The Eagles having some injury issues on the defensive side. And as you mentioned, the Commanders secondary having issues. I think 30 plus is probably going to be pretty easy to get in the Eagles Commanders game from at least one of those teams. And that payout is at negative 105.
Yeah, so the over-under in both games are 47.5.
Wow.
I think both overs actually hit. But I think you're right in the Bills-Chiefs game that nobody scores over 30. I think it's going to be like a 28, 23, 27, 24, one of those type of games, 24, 23, something like that,
Yeah, it's kind of the range I was thinking too.
So I think it barely gets over that 47.5, but I think you're right where I don't think any team scores 30 points because unless we do the overtime thing again, because then everything's out the window when that happens.
Yeah.
And yeah,
because DraftKings still takes theirs if it goes into overtime and they go over, right?
What do you mean?
Like if they were under 30 and then it hits overtime and then the touchdown in overtime puts it over 30, DraftKings still gets their money, right? Okay.
Overtime counts. Overtime counts. Regardless if it you can win with an overtime bet too. So
nice.
It counts. But yeah, so I like both of those.
Appreciate you, Rich. Good night, buddy.
I'm a little weary on the 30 for the Eagles or the Commanders because I think that could go either way.
Well, I feel good then because I thought you would be a little bit more leery about the Bills Chiefs and okay with the Eagles Commanders one. So now I'm feeling good because I'm more confident in the Eagles Commanders one. You're more confident in the Bills Chiefs. I feel like these are both winners now.
There you go. There you go. My last
What's your
bet,
last one?
I think it's a lock, and it kind of goes against a little what you were saying with Buffalo holding Mahomes down, but I have Mahomes' longest pass to be over 34.5 yards. I really like this play because if you go back and you look last week, Bills versus Ravens had 2 receivers that both went over this mark. Isaiah Likely caught a pass for 39 yards, and Bateman caught a pass for 42 yards. And we saw in the first week, too, what happened on the very first play of the game, or maybe it wasn't the first, but the first drive of the game for Denver, 40, 50-yard pass for a touchdown to Franklin. So I think with the speedsters that the Chiefs have, I think a 35-yard pass is an easy one to book for Mahomes, whether it be a receiver like Worthy who beats him on the outside, or, I mean, Kelsey can catch one over the middle and go for 35 yards.
I don't think that your bet there has to contradict my bet because my bet was just 1 passing touchdown or less. There's definitely going to be big plays. It's Pat Mahomes. He's going to find ways to make big plays. I just feel like the Chiefs are going to get a large chunk of their yardage based off of penalties, like they usually typically always do. But the Bills are going to find a way to lock them down in the red zone. I feel like we're going to see more bend don't break on them there, and if the Chiefs are going to score, they may have to change things up a little bit and run the football in the red zone. Now we might see a Pat Mahomes rushing touchdown. I just feel like they're gonna lock down. They're gonna make the Chiefs beat them in the running game if they're gonna beat them. So
Okay.
I mean, a tall order, to say that you're gonna hold back Pat Mahomes, but I just really love that defense for the Bills right now. Even with the secondary being all banged up, we're seeing DeMar Hamlin on a regular basis. And their passing defense has still been pretty locked down solid most of the playoffs. I mean, obviously not so much against Lamar in the second half, but that's a different story. But yeah, we're going to save the divisional draft update for a week that Nate's actually here. You all know that Nate works with power lines, and it is negative polar bear's butt temperatures out there right now. So he's out there fighting the good fight with the power lines. We can't get a break with the weather in the Midwest right now. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it, man, unless you got anything.
No. Let's have a good weekend of football. Let's have some close games.
Yeah, fun stuff. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we appreciate you. We'll be back next week. Hopefully, next week we'll be talking about a nice Super Bowl matchup between the Commanders and the Bills. That's I feel like that's kind of the consensus here on T2T right now. Anyway, that's what we're hoping for, and then we maybe we'll have another Super Bowl squares to fill out as well. But again, for Mark, I'm Justin. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Unapologetic love for Chubb and Justin's hatred for Chris Ballard. Our show is as good as a belly rub. Mark is the best of the NFC West, putting down Penguin Pete with his love for the Rams. Grab a whiskey or a beer, we're glad you're here. Welcome to the family. We're playing for gibberish and rambling.